Hello, music fans. I'm continuing my series of my top 10 albums from every year in the 1970s. Today's video is on 1973. And before I jump in, I'm just going to give a couple honorable mentions. First honorable mention goes to Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath by Black Sabbath. This is heavy metal, their fifth album. Really solid Black Sabbath album, but not my favorite of theirs. And my second honorable mention is Who Do We Think We Are by Deep Purple. This is more of a hard rock album. It's their seventh album, the last album by the most famous lineup of Deep Purple, their Mark II lineup, um, until their 1984 album Perfect Strangers, where that lineup reunites. While I prefer this over the first three Deep Purple albums, I don't think this is quite as good as their fourth to their sixth album, so they kind of dipped in quality a little bit on the seventh album, but it's pretty close. So it's still enjoyable. Now let's jump right into my actual top 10 with number 10, which is an Italian prog rock album by Banco del Mutuo Sorcoso, which is called Io Sono Nato Libero. If I pronounced that right, I'm not sure. But it's the third album by this Italian band. Lyrics are all in Italian, vocals are operatic, the music is reminiscent of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, but with some more traditional Italian music influence. The title of the album translates to I Was Born Free. My number 9 of 1973 is Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield. This is progressive rock as well. It's his debut album. The opening theme was used for the soundtrack to The Exorcist. This sold an estimated 15 million copies worldwide, and it's basically an instrumental album, though there are some background vocals and spoken word vocals that say which instruments are coming in the song. So it's pretty amazing for a epic instrumental prog rock album to have been so popular, and it's a really great album, so I understand why. My number 8 is A Passion Play by Jethro Tull, another progressive rock album, as most on this list will be. This is their sixth album, and it follows a similar style to Thick as a Brick, but Ian Anderson plays a bunch of saxophone on this album instead of just his typical acoustic guitar, vocals, and flute. Number 7, I have Brain Salad Surgery by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This is their fourth album, another prog rock album. Very solid, very intense, lots of keyboards and classical music inspiration on here. Number 6 is Selling England by the Pound by Genesis. This is their fifth album. Really great, really British sounding. Number 5, I have Houses of the Holy by Led Zeppelin. So this isn't fully a progressive rock album. It's maybe more of a hard rock mixed with folk, but this is their fifth album, and it's possibly their most progressive album as well. Often it's my favorite Led Zeppelin album, but it's pretty close between this and 4 and the debut and Physical Graffiti. Those are kind of the 4 that duke it out for my favorite Led Zeppelin album. Number 4 of 1973 is by Gentle Giant, and it's called In a Glass House. This is their fifth album, another classic Gentle Giant album. It's not my favorite of theirs, but they could really do no wrong during this time period in the early 1970s. Now we're getting into the top 3. The bronze medal, number 3, goes to Lark's Tongues in Aspic by King Crimson. This is their fifth album, likely their heaviest album to this point in time. They bring in even more darkness and dissonance than they had on previous albums, as well as more angular guitar riffs. There are 3 instrumental tracks on here and 3 vocal tracks, all a really fun listen from start to finish. And then my number 2 for the silver medal, it goes to Yes and Tales from Topographic Oceans. This is their sixth album. It is a double album, and that features 4 side-long epics. So it's got 2 vinyls. On each side of each of the 2 vinyls is one song that takes up the whole side. Like they're over 20-minute songs. It's a little over the top, but it's definitely interesting to hear. This is basically what happens when you take making progressive rock epics to its extreme and make it into a double album. Somebody had to do it, and it's interesting that Yes did it. It's not my favorite Yes album, but it's still really great. It takes some getting used to because there's some accessible moments in these long epic tracks, but there's also a lot of like noodling and kind of ambient noise. I don't really love the what I call pointless ambient noise parts, but the rest of it, when they're actually uh, composing music and performing music together rather than just ambient noise or jamming, I like the composed parts a lot. I think it's really great. And my number one of 1973 is, of course, one that I have here. I'm going to show the vinyl this time. Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. And that's their eighth album and one of the best selling albums of all time. I don't know, I think it's in like the top five. I don't remember. Maybe it's in the top three. Um, really great album. It's a gatefold that I have here. And yeah, just side one is Speak to Me, Breathe in the Air, On the Run, Time, and The Great Gig in the Sky. Awesome, awesome side. I think Time would be my favorite song on side one. I also like Breathe. Great Gig in the Sky has great female vocals, which are pretty cool. Side two is Money, Us and Them, Any Color You Like, Brain Damage, and Eclipse. My favorite track on there is Us and Them, but also love how the album ends with Brain Damage and Eclipse. Really, really awesome album from start to finish. And it's crazy to imagine that all these albums that I just talked about here are 50 years old this year. It's 2023, so the 1973 is 50 years ago. Also crazy that Roger Waters released a new Redux version of this, re-recorded and stripped down with none of the David Gilmour guitar solos or anything, or any saxophone solos. I don't know why he wanted to do that, but that was disappointing to listen to. But yeah, let me know what you think of these, my top 10 of 1973. What are your favorite albums from 1973? Let me know down in the comments, and stay tuned for my next video on 1974. Till then, peace out.